All right, we're back. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a
go ahead.
it's a fundamental part of playing footsies is, hey, are you going to allow this person to dash in your face and
Right,
establish their pressure, or are you going to check their movement, right? So I remember playing the beta myself for MK1 and just being like, man, I'm so glad that they made dashing so much more committal. Like you
right,
can't block dash and like I see you moving towards me or moving away from me and tapping block as you're doing it, and then you get away or you get in close and I can't do anything to stop that.
right.
And he complained about it. And then NRS was like, "Oh, we'll fix it." And they put block dashing back in the game. And I was like, "This is so stupid. This is so dumb."
No,
Um,
listen. This is the thing I keep saying, and I can tell that. So I can tell that NRS games only attract besides NRS players, like anime players. And the way I can tell um, that how do I put this? That the freer movement is in a fighting game, and I know this is gonna get the Smash heads all upset if I say this, but it's true. The more that you like orient your game around movement and the more free and mobile you are able to be in the fighting game, the less of an actual fighting game you get to actually design around. Because at a certain point, if your movement is too good, then the only thing that really matters is, range zero
yeah,
is the problem. And yes, that's like a
because you can
thing.
always just be there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you agree with me, right? With MK11, look at what Fujin did to that game. Like,
Fujin was simultaneously the best and worst thing to happen in MK11. He had so much freedom of a lot of what he did was locked behind execution, but he has so much freedom of expression in the way that you styled his combo structure and his offense. Um, but then on the flip side of that is no matter where he was on the screen, he got to play his way. You had to play his game. He
yep,
got Oki from full screen. You could knock someone down with wind kicks and it sends you full screen. You could wave dash and be there before they could get up.
right,
Then there
yep,
was other times where you could end your combo with wave with wind push, and you could wave dash backwards and be full screen, and they could do nothing about it.
right,
And while that would have been something that like okay, either check him for one or the other, or make it to where he doesn't have every potential tool, or make every character like that. Which is why you ended up having the grand finals between Ninja Killer and one of the twins, where it was like, hey, it's just gonna be Fujimura. And the entire tournament was run and predominantly dictated by Fujin matches and Fujin mirrors. It was just this is the character that is the best thing to happen to the game. But the best thing to
right.
happen to the game was also the worst.
Yeah, it's it's always funny how that kind of thing can happen, like those paradoxical like paradigm shifts and things like that. Um, anyway, so like, um, where was I wanting to go next? Um, okay, so yeah, I did want to know though. Okay, so like, what's another thing in MK1 that you don't think you are punished harshly enough for?
Armored attacks or armor reversals, easily.
Okay, why do you think that?
Easily. So I understand it's an assist game, right? Um,
I do not. I want to say for the record, I do not consider this game to be assist or tag or any of that. It's
okay.
just it's just variations with MK11 tower modifiers. That's it.
So I would agree with that. I wouldn't say it's the full on assist game, and I guess that's why they didn't really market it as such or call it as such
Yeah, they
even.
never did.
But the truth of the matter is like you can call in a backup fighter to defend you or cover certain things, right? And I think that excuse me, for some aspects of the game, it makes sense. Like there are some times where it's like, hey, you want you want to extend the combo a certain way, or you want to try to give yourself plus frames in a situation where you're already plus and you're kind of jailing into something. The biggest part, even when you want to do something that's minus and you want to make it safe, right? I don't mind certain those things. I think that the risk reward for how this game works is imbalanced because the risk is so much lower than the reward for a lot of the cameos.
Okay. So
You can
like,
do this string.
yeah, you gotta give me a
You can
gameplay example. It's more concrete, I guess.
so with how Striker dominated during the Striker meta and then Cyrax during the Cyrax meta and some of what Trimmer has done for some characters, even up until this point, which is he can take something that's minus punishable and make it safe. Um, the risk reward in that is that if you do that same string and call your assist or go into a buffer for a special move to extend the combo, if your opponent blocks, they don't die, sure, whatever, but they don't get to necessarily take a turn to establish their pressure against you. Versus if they don't block, they hold 40 to 50%, right? Um, I
Okay.
think that I think that a middle ground or a way to look at it is instead of being able to loop that sort of pressure or extend that sort of pressure, if you're gonna make that sort of big gamble on doing something stupid, unsafe, which we're just gonna go with the early days of MK1 where we're talking about Storm Cell Cyrax assist, right? Just as an example, I'm not saying this is how the game runs today, but just as an example, if you're gonna do something that stupid, obviously that's just trying to cover you not having an established game plan or
Right.
you're just kind of flow charting your offense, then it should have taken your entire cameo bar so that you can not continue to loop the situation over and over again, or have your cameo bar regenerating as you're looping it again for the second time, right?
Right. Yeah,
And
I get what you're saying.
I would say the same thing for armored attacks. If you're going to do an armored attack and try to cover your armored reversal, which I don't think you should be able to cover your armored reversal at all. I think you made a big gamble on trying to break or stop somebody's pressure or deny them Oki. If you're wrong, you should die. That's just how that is. That's how I view it. But if you're going to take the big gamble of calling an assist to cover that, then you should not be able to utilize your assist at all. Like, it should go into this cost your whole cameo bar, and it's going to be on cooldown for the next 5 seconds. But that's just me.
But wait a minute. See, this is why like I don't get like when people have these criticisms about the game. Like I don't understand though. That is exactly what happens.
When is that what happens?
Oh, okay, let me see. Like I said, I'm playing at the same time, so like I may miss something. So what you're telling me is you don't like it that there are situations, if I'm understanding this correctly, where someone does something shitheaded, we'll just say, uses their assist to cover it, and somehow, like, they still have their cameo back in time to do it again, or something like that? Like, I guess I don't
Yes.
understand.
Yes, like that has been for cameos that have it takes a half a bar or half a cameo bar for them to do whatever it is that they are planning on doing.
Okay. So,
So they get to continue to loop that situation. They get to do this whole chip sequence 2 or 3 times in a row. More often 2 times in a row, right?
Yeah.
Instead of 3. They get to do it 2 times in a row. And the chip sequence could last 5 seconds, it could be 10, I don't know. But they're doing it in an effort to not only chip you down, but keep you from being able to establish your pressure or take your turn back.
okay.
And the only way, and I do understand that there has to be an execution barrier, and I agree with there being an execution barrier. But the only way for you to mitigate or stop that, generally speaking, is to look for a gap and try to do an armor reversal, or to flawless block something, right?
Okay.
I think that if you're gonna be a dumbass, like if you're gonna do something that's ridiculously unsafe, or you're gonna go into this string that you're gonna try to cover with a cameo, automatically, if you do it on block, automatic full stop, full cameo bar.
Yeah, that would be hard to program, but okay. So now that I got exactly the kind of thing you're saying here, so as far as I know, in like current day MK1, what you're describing is like not a thing you have to deal with for the most part. Like most of the best assists require you to blow the whole thing out if you want to do something like that. And the ones that allow you to do like more chain pressure, like Kano's one I can think of, for example, right? Like they're just not good enough in the other ways to make that necessarily worth doing. The cameos that can be used more than once to extend a pressure sequence, for example, those cameos tend to either have like bad combo damage, or they tend to like, or that's like all they're useful for. Well, like that's kind of what the deal with Kano is, right? Is that's all Kano can do. He has no utility outside of that, and there's plenty of times when you need that alternative utility from a cameo, and you just don't have it. But even then, from what I remember, I mean, you gotta remember though the way it works. If you don't know, then I guess I'm telling you for the first time. When you use the same assist back to back, you know that it makes the cooldown ultimately of that longer, right? It doesn't just empty your bar.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah, okay. So even if they do that thing twice, they now have no cameo, which also means if you combo them, they can't break even if they have full bar. But they also won't even have the bar to break because they spent it doing like some shit-headed thing, right? So like, personally, I don't see the problem there. Like, the game was only, in my opinion, from what I can remember, and I mean, I'll play a shit ton of this game, okay? I'm like coming up on like 3K hours here, probably by the end of the year. Like, that kind of thing only really existed with Launch Cyrax. It's like never been that bad ever since, nowhere near that bad. And even then, the problem with Cyrax and Raiden, the problem with Raiden Cyrax and Johnny Cyrax, was that Cyrax just came back too fast, and also he wasn't having that penalty applied to him where if he had 2 helicopters, it increased the cooldown. That was one thing a lot of people don't know, is that it wasn't working correctly on him at the time. But like, if you look now, right, they've like all those popular cameos that were used in that way mostly are either still used, but you know, they're not degenerate like that, or it's turned out that the cameos that allow you to do that are not the best, which has kind of turned out to be what the deal is. Like MK1 has ended up being a game that is more defined by synergies than anything else. Now, I do think a lot of people, they gravitate toward the easier to use cameos, but I think that's just the same way anyone would do that specific thing, is just for consistency's sake, like if they're competing or whatever. But also, I just think that a lot of people tend to, what's the word I want to use? Like, lots of people tend to like to go back to what makes them comfortable, you know? So I think it's really hard to get the average NRS player, especially. I think it's really hard to get the average NRS player, especially, to go outside their comfort zone and look at new things. Like I get what you're saying, and that was definitely a thing that existed around when the game launched. But I think especially after Cyrax got the first major nerf, we've never actually had the game in that kind of a state where it was being dominated by that sort of thing. Like, even if you look at the Striker meta, quote unquote, you couldn't just pick Striker even if you were a top player against a top player and win. You had to have like very immaculate placement of where your grenades were, because if for some reason you did tap out on Striker, like, Striker's cooldown was brutal. He was almost as bad as Goro if you actually ran out of Striker from using grenade tosses. So, like, I mean, I think the only reason people complained about the Striker meta was it's the same way at all casual or spectator levels of fighting games is people just don't like anything that slows down the game and makes defense, like, really powerful, right? Like, that's really the thing that I think a lot of people, when they look back at the Striker meta, they don't look at it for like the grenade looping or any of that. They look back as the problem was, especially how he could grenade out of the corner while you were getting up, so you get a hitbox covering you, right? So none of that exists in the game anymore. And I'm trying to think of what else. Like, I mean, Farah is only selectively useful. She's not like a cameo that's just good on anyone, and she doesn't do any of that kind of looping behavior. She can't do that. Um, Trying to think of who else we got in the game right now, cameo wise. It's like meta so far. Like I think most of the meta cameos in the game right now don't even do that, or they don't even give you the option to do that. Like I'm thinking of like Janet. Janet does not let you do anything like that at all. She's like, for as popular as she is, she's only pitched for convertibility, right? Like she has no dirt otherwise unless your character has a sandwich set up with her. And people don't want to get into that because they don't like the execution because that stuff is actually pretty fucking hard. I don't know if you ever tried any of it. Um,
I did.
Tremor is used in that way, but once again, with the way it works now, Tremor has to go on full cooldown if he wants to do that. And it's kind of harsh. So they can do that, but they're forced to literally give up the battery of everything else in their offense. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think of who is meta. It's actually kind of hard because I think the game, like diversity wise, is in a pretty good state at the moment. And the results of all those little online tournaments you see all the time seem to speak to the game being more in a much better place than people who criticize it seem to want to admit. I mean, I've seen peacemakers winning these things, and yeah, this isn't competition that's at like the highest level or anything. But you and I know from being involved in like culture, if you're one of these people that participates in all these little weekly online things, no matter what the game is, you don't just end up doing that and constantly getting in top eights because you're like mediocre or bad, right? Like it's very hard in the present online environment to luck your way into winning like that nowadays. Like the level of competition that you have to face that's on average better is so much higher that like I think it's pretty brutal. You know what I mean? Um, like yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's just I don't think I ever thought that that was a problem with the game, except for when Cyrax was on launch. How that was. And that wasn't even the Cyrax problem. That came down to like multiple nerfs they needed to do to both characters and the cameo that I recall. Um, Not that I'm saying that like that stuff ever existed would be fine. Like I think lockdown in a fighting game is the absolute most boring thing, and I think it's the thing that should be rewarded the least for sure. Don't get me wrong here. Like we absolutely deserve to get our asses torn the way that we did for how the game looked. At what was the big tournament where it was launched? Cyrax was still there. Was it Combo Breaker? I want to say it was, and like
They where they reverted it on accident or whatever it was.
no, I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the year the game came out. There was a
Hmm.
tournament shortly after. I think it was one
See,
of
I
our
think
big
that
majors. I think it was Combo Breaker.
I
And the
think it might
top
have been.
four was like all Raiden Johnny with Cyrax. And like it made the
Yeah.
game look terrible. And yeah, like if the game had anything like that in it, I would be bitching every day until it got fixed. But I mean, they really mostly have addressed all that stuff. I can't think of an example in the game right now that's like that, especially anything that's like that that's actually so good it wins you games. I don't think that exists in the current version of MK1 at all. Um, yeah, like you have to give me more specific gameplay examples. Because I mean, yeah, sure. If I would agree with you that we're like a thing that actually were in the game, but as far as I know, it's not. Like anytime you want to do something shitheaded now and cover it with an ambush, you have to use a cameo that's either like decidedly mediocre in every other way, or you have to lose the whole thing. That's kind of the
So
design direction they go with that.
so I that may be true. Um, but again, I think this speaks to who NRS is making the game for, and I think that that sort of um, I like to call it lack of necessity for decision making, right? When you can simply do a flowchart loop for your offense and it be effective, I think that that is problematic, and I think that the fact that it was effective for as long as it was, from a casual to semi-competitive or low-level competitive aspect of the game, like that being part of what dominated the meta, it did put a very bad taste in a lot of people's mouth, myself included,
Oh
right?
no, listen. Don't get me wrong. I 100% agree with you. Okay,
Yeah,
like
and
Cyrax probably killed a lot of the goodwill this game could have been given in the future.
yeah,
I'm gonna be
and then
honest.
the other part of this is, and this is something that I said was true of every game past MK9, actually. MKX, MK11, and MK1. I think that the barrier to entry is, I don't want to say it's too low. I think that what makes certain fighting games special.
Well, speaking of which, funny enough, I just ran the M2 Dave. Anyway, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
The barrier to entry, like I said, I don't want to say it's too low, because I think a part of what makes fighting, especially in the few examples that I have to go off of right now, or the biggest example that comes to mind is like Super Smash Bros. Melee, right? I know a lot of the FGC doesn't consider it to be a fighting game proper, right? I normally just kind of throw it in the arena fighter type of whatever, like, but part of what makes that game special and why it's still having tournaments and being played at the volume that it's being played today is because of the fact that anyone can pick it up and do the basics of playing that game and have a good time.
Right.
And there's also it's an entirely different game when you start playing it at a higher level,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
When you
I know
start
that.
looking at the movement and how the movement works and dash canceling and attack, like when you look at all of these super high level tactical smash, it's like, wow, there's a lot of actual technical difficulty that is a barrier to entry to being a high level player.
Right.
I don't see that with most NRS games.
Um.
With most NRS games, the barrier to entry the barrier to entry is low, which I think is true of all fighting games. Like, you can get into any fighting game,
Right.
but the barrier to entry for being what's considered a high level or even good player for that game is also low. Like, playing, again, we're going to compare it to its peer. Playing Street Fighter as a platinum player is very different than playing it as a master player.
Right.
And even playing as a master player is very different than playing as an ultimate master. Right?
Yeah, you're
level,
arguably. I know because like I had played enough Street Fighter 6 to get up into like the master MR ratings as soon as they implemented that.
right.
So like, yeah, I remember all too clearly, like, even just like a diamond to a platinum player was an entirely different experience. Like once you got from like, well, especially once you get out of the initial ranked hellhole into the master
Mhm.
ranks, like, I would say you're not even playing Street Fighter 6 till you're there.
Correct. Like, and I said this to one of my homies who I helped get into Street Fighter, because he was like, he wants to move away from NRS games and get into Street Fighter. He thought Street Fighter 6 looked good, so he asked me for help learning it.
Right.
So, he was like, what's your MR? And I was like, I don't play for MR. I mostly play casual. And he was like, oh, well, how can I know that you're even a good player? And I said, well, I'll send you some of the videos. I'm almost always playing people who are Grandmaster,
Right.
Ultimate Master, like that. I run sets with that level or that echelon of people all the time, right? So, he's trying to understand how to get to master rank,
Right.
and he's playing, and like there's things I'm telling him, like, hey, when this happens, do this instead. Think about this or keep this in mind. And he was like so frustrated. He was like, bruh, just trying to get out of diamond it feels like it's impossible. And I was like, trust me, when you get out of diamond, you'll feel like just trying to get past 1500 is impossible.
Right, yeah.
Like just trying to maintain 1500 is going to feel impossible. And then when you get to a point where you're maintaining 1500, trying to get to 1600 is going to feel impossible. And that's just a part of the progress and that barrier to entry that I'm talking about. Whereas with NRS titles, as far back as I can remember, it was if you can learn the basics or the basic fundamental pieces of a character, you could essentially play the game at a high level. Like there was I don't like to put a lot of stock in the thought of me being a naturally gifted or good fighting game player. I don't think that about myself.
Right.
But there should have been no reason that during MK11 and the early days of MK1, I was playing pro players and running sets with them and winning against them. Like that should not have been a thing. I would not take a single game off of Punk the God today.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's with me having fought and played against the ultimate masters that I play against and won sets against. I still would not come close to the people who are in legend rank or get on the stage at Evo and compete in those top 64, top 32, top, like it doesn't make sense.
Right.
So that is, again, I think Street Fighter is kind of showing the fact that it's also special in the same way that Smash is, where you can get into it and have a good time, but it is an entirely different game when you're playing at a higher level. And I don't see that with MK1 or really any NRS games for that matter. At least not since MK9.
Man, okay, I don't know if I would agree with that. Like, listen, I like to dunk on NRS players too, because, like, as I've said before, like, I was never like an MK or NRS guy. I was a fighting game lover that, like, due to life circumstances, I could just never compete before or even play online. Like, I never had access to good enough internet to do it. And it was MKX getting rollback netcode that was the thing that, like, changed my participation in the FGC as a whole. So that was originally why I played these games, was, well, this is the only fighting game I can play that's actually playable online. That was pretty much it. So I started doing that, but, like, I've never been blind about what NRS games are, what their flaws are. So, like, how do I want to put this? It's hard. I don't know. This is hard for me to quantify. Like, no, I definitely think that, like, now, of course, I gotta stick up for my friends here, right? But, like Tom, for example, regardless of what people want to say about him right now, Tom is 100% a certified, legitimately high-level fighting game player. Guy play high-level DOA, and high-level DOA, if you actually know your fighting games, like, in depth, admittedly, I'm talking like a nerdy extent, like, you would know, because DOA is insanely hard to be good at. That's, like, probably one of the hardest fighting games along with Virtual Fighter to be good at, in my opinion.
I would argue older Soul Calibers were too. Like Soul Calibur 2 and 3 maybe. The newer ones, not so much.
Yeah, Soul Calibur 2 and 3, yeah, for sure, too. I agree there. But anyway, my point was, like, and Tom is, like, a multi-game competitor, too, right? So, like, you know, I don't remember if he was using his Tom Brady alias at the time, but, I mean, there was that, there was, you know, like, oh, I'm blanking out right now. Sorry, I'm a little tired still. Also, I'm trying to check my Discord here. M2 Dave's trying to get hold of me for something, I think. Anyway, so yes, I do think there are a lot of NRS-only players, though. That's what you're talking about. And unfortunately, that does speak to these games don't exactly reward like the highest level play in them. Um, and I'm sure you know very well, just as much as I do, that there are certain names. You know, I'm not going to say any of those names right now, but they were hot shit in MK11, and yet they're like nowhere to be found anywhere else. Like that is kind of unheard of, to have that kind of lack of carryover from one game to another. That's really weird.
I mean, you know, I'm all good with saying names. I don't care about that. But,
Yeah, I just try not to start shit, but I'm sure you know as well as I some of the people I could be talking about when I say that, though, right? There are certain people, they were just unable to do anything post MK11.
Yeah.
And even in the evidence that we have, where you can see these people playing other games, you can see, because of what made that game tick, because of how it was built, you can see like bad habits from MK11 all over the place in their gameplay in other games.
Yeah.
And you know, that's how you end up like people like Jukes, man.
Unfortunate.
Like
Unfortunate.
and like yeah, that definitely says there is a problem with NRS games, I'll admit. However, like, you can't say that about the older school players, though. Like from Tom's generation, because a lot of those guys were also multi-game guys.
Right.
And I don't care what generation you're living in, even without the widespread knowledge of the internet everywhere, being a hard more than one game is fucking hard, okay? And especially being like good enough to place in more than one game is like,
Right.
that's only something that like, I think Taquito is still like the king of fighting game players that managed to actually do that and be consistent. And I will say that, and I'm gonna say this. I don't care how people feel about this. Like, I'm not one of these people from like the old guard that's got beef with Sonic for whatever reason, but I do notice that Sonic only wants to play and only gravitates to one kind of game. And anything that doesn't deliver on the things that he has relied on in past fighting games to help him win, he just ditches the game immediately.
He is
a good example of this.
One of the.
Or go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say he is one of the best offensive players that I've ever seen. I don't know that his defense is as good, which is not to say that his defense is bad. It's just to say that I think that he's so much better at offense. And it's probably the only reason why he has any defense at all is because he understands what each character wants to do offensively, because he plays the entire cast for almost every game that he does play. But to your point, the games that do not allow him to do that, or like to kind of play his game, he doesn't really invest the time in, or at least the competitive time in. Like, I remember him saying that he was going to compete in SFX, and that just didn't happen. It never happened.
You can't.
And I don't know.
Listen, there's gonna be people who watch this who are gonna get like super butthurt about this, but I'm saying you cannot be Sonic Fox and play Street Fighter 6. Yeah, like,
I mean,
that comes down to that comes down to a couple of things, right? But like, he also just doesn't have like I don't want to say he doesn't have like the mental for it or whatever, but it is obvious that he has kind of fallen into a thing I think a lot of longtime competitors fall into, which is they start to get more concerned with the game having what they had typically needed in the past to win, instead of him taking the games for what they are when they come out and just figuring it out from there.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, you know, his little arc of trying to become a Soul Calibur player when 6 came out, right? So I don't know if you ever played 6 enough to know like about how stupid. I can't remember his name. It was the character that was like the villain character of that game, but he was like ridiculous, like broken, like super like triple quadruple S tier in that game when it came out. And a lot of it came down to he was just a really good set play character that had like anime set play in a game that typically has never had that kind of thing, right? You play Soul Calibur, you know. And the very first time that character got the Nerf hammer, he was out.
I mean, we're also talking about a person who I only kept up with Sonic Fox and what he did in MK and
Yeah.
MK11. I remember him being all over the Joker when the Joker was basically playing Ultimate while the rest of the cast was not. And then when the rest of the cast was able to power creep the Joker, he stopped and was like, "I'm out. Like I'm not doing this."
Yeah. Well,
When Fujin was revealed to be such a better character at everything. So I know Sonic often refers to things like big MK, little MK, right? Like he gives you different ranges that characters kind of excel at, and he was really happy that the Joker was a character that had such disjointed normals that you had to play at his range and work your way in. And when Fujin came out and when some other members of the cast were able to do the same thing, he just was like, yeah, I'm not doing this. I'm not.
well, I will point out too, though, by the way, that you'll notice he likes that kind of stuff when he has access to it, but he's really transparent around like he doesn't want anybody else to have it. That's like that's one of the things that has made me never like be able to be a glazer. He's undeniably one of the best fighting game players of all time on paper sense, right? Like he has the results. But I don't care like for the attitude he's like typically had throughout the years, and I really don't care for the fact that he is someone who like this is a hard thing to articulate, but it's like he's not a real fighting game player. He's a guy that games everything possible to get his consistent winning record. And by that I mean, like, I think he does pick and choose which games that he plays for the sake of, like, his image and for, like, his ease of winning. He's not somebody that will pick up a fighting game to act explicitly to get good at it, even if he likes it, if it doesn't have enough of, like, the kind of tools he values. And yes, I think it does matter that the fact that he prefers set play above everything else, tells you he's someone that doesn't want to play the actual fighting game. He's just trying to get his one hit and that be it. And I think it's fine to like archetypes like that, but you also notice that he in no way will ever say anything about a set play character being overbuffed or anything. Like, he doesn't care about the integrity of a game as a whole if it has that kind of stuff in it for him. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, that's a big reason why, like, yeah, I'm not like a Sonic dick writer. Like, I love watching him play. I think he's obviously good when he is good, but like, unfortunately, like, my definition of like who or what is a good player and why, I do think diversity kind of matters. And like, I don't know about giving like all-time GOAT status to somebody that so transparently picks and chooses what he plays or tries to get good at.
Yeah.
And
I think
he doesn't do much anyway to like dissuade any of those stereotypes about NRS players not playing other games, because he really doesn't. Right? Let's like really think back to what he actually has participated in that he's like took seriously. We got Skullgirls, we got some DOA, right? Because he was a DOA 5 player. But beyond that, it is just Injustice and MK.
Yeah,
Well,
I was
and
about to
DBZ.
say,
DBZ.
I yeah, but so part of what I think is really interesting when it comes to that, and I'll get back to one last thing that I kind of want to say about MK1 and kind of NRS games in
Yeah.
general. Um, but I think it's interesting that I think he is a really good fighting game player. I'm not, I would never try to take that away from him. However, I think the flip side to that is that he's he's not so good that he is playing at the top level in every single fighting game. I think that the fighting game that he plays at the top level in, he plays at the top level because those games are either super simplistic or, like I said earlier, the barrier to entry for a high level is not that high, and he just happens to be so far above the rest of the competition. Like, I think the reason that he's excelled in NRS
Yeah,
games
he has
is
a lot
because
of
most NRS players are bad,
he has
right?
a lot of results that you can argue are um, big fish, little pond things.
Right.
Yeah,
Whereas if he were to take that same thing to Tekken or Street Fighter or any of, let's just keep it with those being the big three. I think he would fall. So he may place top 8, but I think he'd be more likely placing in top 32, top 16.
yeah,
If
exactly.
if he's placing it all right. Where with MK games, because he's so much higher than everybody else from a fighting game perspective, when it comes to MK games, he's dominating in like top 5, top 3, top 2 almost all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But to kind of bring it back to MK1, some of what I think makes a good fighting game are risk reward, decision making,
yeah,
and I would say expression. I want to say expression slash execution, right? Um, those three things I think are like the bigger pillars of making a good fighting game.
yeah. I
And
agree.
part of why I don't see MK1 as fitting those things is because I don't think that the risk reward is balanced enough.
Yeah, it definitely.
Um,
I mean, it definitely is risk reward ratio problems. That's for sure. Like, I won't deny that.
the the decision making, right? Like I said before, in most 2D fighting games. Oh, and there's this fourth thing that I'm gonna talk about shortly after this, but the decision making is not necessarily there. So this goes to kind of how the train of thought for a lot of I play Ed in Street Fighter 6, right?
Yeah,
A lot of the decision making that I have to do in that game is based around, do I want damage or do I want OP? Do I want a setup or do I want a safe jump, right? Do I want to cash out right now, or how am I going to cash out, right? So like that sort of decision making I don't really see in MK1. For the most part, everybody does the same thing, which is I run my flow chart, whether it be this type of offense or I'm gonna just block until you do something that's punishable. Which, don't get me wrong, I know that's a part of fighting games. Like there's gonna be a flow chart at some point for almost every fighting game for almost every player. But the way that the flowchart presents itself in MK1, I think, is a lot more simplistic. And then when you do get the hit, you almost never have to make those decisions.
yeah, I
You just
agree.
like, hey, I'm gonna get the best of both worlds. I'm gonna get all of this damage, and I'm gonna get OP, and you're just gonna have to hold that. And then execution slash expression. So, like I said, I play Ed, right? I've played Ed for about a year. What is Ed's biggest thing in Street Fighter 6? What is the thing that almost every Ed player wants one thing? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is? Do you know what that one thing is?
Well, I would assume it's the dream combos.
Exactly. It's the
Yeah.
decent combos with his level 2, right?
Mm,
For almost a year, I had no interest in playing in doing any sort of level 2 desync dream. I didn't care about it,
right.
right? And as time has gone on, I saw a lot of other high level players who are still playing the character because he's one of the least played top tier characters, which I think is hilarious because he does have that execution barrier. But I saw a lot of other top tiers start moving away from trying to fish for that dream combo. It's flashy, it's great, it does so many things, but it's not necessary to be good with the character. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
And I think that sort of player expression, like you know what Momochi's dream combo looks like versus Lashar versus uh freaking Punk. Like you know that these three players are gonna play this character differently, right?
Right.
So much so that like the last time Sajam commentated a match with Momochi in it, when he kept doing the dream combo, he was like, every time he does the dream combo, I want to hear y'all in the audience say, "You're mine," and they were going along with it. But when Lashar was on stage, that did not happen. That wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
They didn't do that for that player because they were playing the character differently. There's generally only 1 to 2 ways that you can play characters in MK1, right? You have to
Yeah.
kind of go with the optimal way to play that character. And I think that because of the fact that it doesn't meet those three criteria, it falls short of that bar of being a good fighting game for me.
Yeah.
This fourth thing that I want to say is that, and this kind of goes back to what I said earlier. NRS does this thing where they straddle the fence, right? I said before they're in this 2.5D game. They don't want to make a 2D game. They don't want to make a 3D game, so they make a 2.5D, right?
Yeah.
And they take concepts or aspects from 3D games and 2D games. They don't want to do archetypes, but they do want to do archetypes. So they do archetypes, but they give characters every tool, or they give characters limited tools, and then they give them a cameo or a variation system so that they can make up the difference for lacking those tools, so that they can still play any way that they want to, right? I think where this presents itself the most is they're trying to do what Smash has done, which is they're trying to make a game for casuals and for competitors.
Right.
And I don't think that they've been successful at that because trying to teeter that line just kind of makes it look like, for lack of a better way to say it, a sloppy mess.
Yeah.
You have some things that are inherently, this makes sense from a competitive standpoint, and there are other things where like, this is just super silly. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I think. Yeah. There's definitely a problem. What is it I want to say? There's like a priorities issue with NRS in terms of stuff like that. Like my philosophy when it comes to fighting games, right, is for the years I've been alive, I'm like 36 now. I believe that for the most part, when it comes to fighting games, I think if you build it, they will come for the most part. I think if you just focus on the game itself, I don't think you need gimmicks to attract eyes to it. And
Not at all.
fighting games anyway, right? I think this is also the problem. And like this is the thing I don't understand. Like I don't know if it's just because like I'm a Jew or like this kind of thing is obvious to me, right? But like they're NRS is kind of bad at capitalism. Like you don't need millions of sales to like make your games work, or to be. Well, we'll talk about this some other time. But what I was gonna say anyway was that they have this problem where like they don't understand that with a game like I'm gonna call it a persistent game, like a live service game sort of, and fighting games kind of are. They're in this like weird in between zone, I guess. But anyway, what I was trying to say was what you need to make fighting games work is you need whales. You don't need very many of those compared to like average everyday purchases. And that's the thing I don't understand how NRS doesn't see that. Like, listen, if all you did was went with like a full live service model where you like dropped like a new skin for like Melina every month. Like you could fund NRS's funds just alone off the Adedian stands. Like they really wanted to. And I don't understand that either. Like, yeah, sure, they get millions of sales, but the problem is, as Tom's pointed out many times, they get those millions of sales, and then they die down to like, I don't know, 10% of what they were, 5% maybe, and then the concurrent players after that is just like it's not even a blip on the radar, right? But if you design your game in such a way in which like you had things like skins constantly coming out, and so you constantly had new things coming out for the characters and stuff, I don't know how it's like not an obvious slam dunk, especially with the way of how rabid a lot of MK fans are about their characters, right? And I think that's part of the problem is both WB and NRS, they have like a very faulted vision of like what it looks like when you're getting success with your products that's like semi-live service. Because like, yeah, sure, Street Fighter V, when it launched, you know, it might have been dog shit when it launched, and it might have taken forever for it to get to where it got, but like, I guarantee you, overall, compared to like MK11, I bet you Street Fighter V made such fuck shit tons of money in terms of like costume sales that they never really needed to worry about whether or not they were going to get shut down before they could patch the game up.
Right.
And that's one thing about NRS that, like, it sounds weird for me to be saying this, like, yeah, like, where the fuck is, like, my money, you know, or like, where the fuck are my costumes and stuff I can buy? Like, I'm not normally that kind of guy, but I do recognize that, like, that's a thing with, like, the way they handle their games in general that just doesn't make sense to me. Like, is they don't go for, like, whales when it comes to what they want to sell. They only go for, like, brand new audiences. The only thing I can think of is it's gotta be some suits of WB that think they know shit about how economics works and they don't know anything. That's all I can imagine. Like, I can't even imagine anyone at NRS, even Ed Boon himself, is that stupid that they never thought about something like that. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you about a lot of these things. But yeah, I mean, but I do think, like, MK1 is definitely low. Like, it's high level enough, though, that I can watch a match, I can tell you who doesn't know what about this matchup. And, like, the game kind of is heavily matchup determined. Like, you do have, and I'm not saying that, like, they're, like, old school, like, MK9 tier, like, 8-2s or anything like that. But, like, there's definitely matchup knowledge in this game you can have that entirely changes what the other person has to do. Like, there's still so many flowcharts that are used in this game on a daily basis that I am the only person I've seen that knows what to do about the flowcharts that disrupt them. So, like, that's why I have a problem with taking, like, all MK1 criticism seriously, and it's because while you're absolutely right about that, and while it's definitely been the case, a lot of it, in my experience, also does come out to finding out that there's someone that doesn't even know how to lab. And,
Yeah.
there's also a lot of people, I'm just gonna be honest here, is, I don't think they're the type of people who are, like, dissatisfied with everything they get or anything like that, but there are 100% people, though, who, like, they only care about, like, whether they're getting their dopamine hits off the game or not. And, you know, I mean, that's why, listen, that's why if you, like, watch anything involving, like, game designers, so many of them, like if you watch VDC talks or any of that, so many of these people say, and I think it's the correct thing to say, that the ironic thing about this medium, this video games, is that fun and freedom are like the two biggest enemies of good design.
Yeah.
Because like you can't just make something that's fun. Why? Because fun is like mostly subjective. Well, I mean, there are some objective things about the concept of fun and having fun that we know from neuroscience, but
Right.
like most of that's subjective. But also, what tends to result in the kind of fun that people think they're thinking of tends to result in like games that are only good to play for like an hour or two, and then like maybe you'll come back to it, maybe you won't. Like they're like the average person is often like too fixated on things that are like novelties to get you in the door. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Instead of like what's actually going to give the game substance long term. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. And that's like that is a problem. That's why I'm so critical of people who are like MK1 gameplay critics. Now, as I've said before, like you're never gonna catch me apologizing on NRS's behalf for things like the way the game launched, the way that some things were balanced for the first year or so of the game. Like, I'm definitely not a shill. But I also think it matters that... Hello, you there? Says you left the party. Okay.
I'm still here. I'm still here.
Okay. Like... How do I put this? It's like... Oh, I don't know. I just think it's important for the truth to be actually out there and for people to at least advocate for whatever the truth was. Like, some people, they like to say that I'm just trying to, like, say shit to say shit, or, like, I take pride in being, like, a contrarian or something. Like, I don't think I'm a contrarian at all. I just think, like, I see the game for what it actually is. And I get it that there are reasons people don't like the game that I think are 100% legitimate. But I do think it's important to blow up people who are actually just wrong, though. Like, you can have your subjective feelings about the game. I don't care about that, and I understand that. Like, you know, like when you tell me the reasons you don't like the game, I completely get it, and I don't fault you for any of that, unless it turned out you just said something to me that was, like, completely fabricated or, like, downright untrue. And that's my problem too, is there's been a lot of critics, so-called, of this game who have been, like, very dishonest, like, have outright lied about things down to the way the game itself works. So, yeah, I mean, that's why I'm so, like, willing to defend this game where a lot of people aren't, I guess. But, like, I do think it matters, especially because, like, here's the thing. If you want them to take any of the good parts in this game and learn from it, those people actually have to say that shit too, and none of them actually say any of that. And there are definite improvements to, like, their overall game design in this game. They're just undeniable. That I would hate to see lost because people just wanted clicks and wanted to, like, whine. That's a big thing for me.
While I don't like the game overall, I wouldn't say that there are no good aspects to it or there's nothing good about it.
Yeah.
Right? Like the things that I have to say that are negative about it are just from my perspective, and that's in reference to or with reference to other fighting games in the status quo of how almost every other fighting game works.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, based off of, like, those three pillars of what I think make or define a good fighting game for me.
Yeah.
So when I say what I say, I'm coming from a place of honesty, saying, hey, I don't agree with this design philosophy or the way that this works or the
Right.
fact that we're straddling
Oh, by the way,
here.
video's gonna end now. We're gonna call it there. Thanks for coming on.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for watching,
I,
guys.